Some evidence refuses to stay hidden. It doesn't matter how many investigators overlook it, how many case files gather dust in a cabinet, or how many detectives assume it's irrelevant. It waits, patient, silent, waiting for someone to notice. In one small town, a crime went unsolved for more than 3 decades. The police had evidence. They even documented it, but for reasons that remain baffling, that evidence was ignored. Until the day someone stumbled across it. Someone who didn't care about protocols, jurisdiction, or bureaucracy. Someone who just wanted the truth. And when that truth finally came to light, it shattered lives, reopened old wounds, and proved that even the coldest cases can burn if given enough time. This is the story of a case that should have been solved. A crime that should have never been forgotten. And the evidence that police ignored for over 30 years. The night it happened in the autumn of 1989, a small town in the Midwest was rocked by a crime that no one could explain. A young woman named Margaret Hayes disappeared from her home on the outskirts of town. She hadn't gone out with friends, hadn't called anyone, and hadn't made plans. She simply vanished. Her family reported her missing within hours. Neighbors said they hadn't seen anything unusual. The police arrived quickly, combing her home, questioning family, friends, and anyone who had passed by. They found something peculiar. Margaret's front door had been left unlocked, the porch light on. A faint set of scuff marks led from the driveway into the nearby woods. Inside, a single glass of water sat on the kitchen table, half full, untouched. And yet, there were no signs of forced entry, no footprints inside the home, nothing to suggest a struggle. It was as if she had simply vanished. Evidence that was overlooked. Detectives cataloged everything meticulously. They filed photographs, sketches, witness statements. But among the standard evidence, there were 2 items that police inexplicably dismissed. The first was a small, crumpled piece of paper found under the living room couch. It contained a series of numbers and letters seemingly random, almost like a code. Officers examined it briefly, noted it in their report, and then filed it away. They assumed it was meaningless, the scribbles of a distracted teenager. The second piece of evidence was a camera, an old 35mm Polaroid camera that Margaret had recently purchased. It was found in her bedroom, untouched, with several undeveloped rolls of film inside. Investigators noted the camera in the report but did not develop the film. It remained untouched, boxed, and forgotten in evidence storage. At the time, these 2 items seemed insignificant compared to the bigger questions. Where was Margaret? Was she dead or alive? Who could have taken her? The cold case. Years passed. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. Margaret Hayes' disappearance remained unsolved. The town moved on, or at least tried to. Every once in a while, someone would whisper her name, or a stranger would appear asking questions, but nothing concrete emerged. By the mid-1990s, the case had gone cold. Detectives retired. Files were shuffled into storage. The 2 pieces of overlooked evidence, the note and the camera, were cataloged, but never revisited. The story became a cautionary tale. A reminder in the town that not all mysteries were meant to be solved. Some people whispered that Margaret had run away. Others, more pragmatic, feared the worst, that she had been the victim of a crime that would remain hidden forever. The turning point, it wasn't until 2020 that the case gained new life. A young journalist named Alex Mercer had been assigned to cover cold cases in small towns. His goal was simple: find stories the public had forgotten. When Alex stumbled upon the Hayes file, he noticed something unusual. Many details had been recorded meticulously, but the 2 pieces of evidence, the note and the camera, had never been examined thoroughly. Most of the officers involved were retired or deceased, and in all the subsequent reviews, no one had developed the film or tried to decipher the note. Alex requested access to the stored items. The evidence room, dusty and quiet, seemed almost frozen in time. When he held the crumpled paper in his hands, he felt a shiver run down his spine. The markings, once dismissed as nonsense, suddenly seemed deliberate. He snapped high-resolution photographs and began comparing them to Margaret's personal diary entries, old letters, and notebooks. At first, the notes made no sense, but slowly patterns emerged. The numbers corresponded to dates, times, and addresses in town. The letters seemed to indicate initials of people Margaret had known, and at the center of it all was a single name repeatedly encoded, someone who had been present in her life but never suspected. The camera reveals all next. Alex turned to the Polaroid camera. Developing the film was delicate work. The rolls had sat in storage for over 30 years, but when the images finally appeared, they were shocking. The first few pictures showed ordinary life: Margaret walking through her neighborhood, smiling at friends, attending school events. But then, One photograph caught Alex's attention. It was taken in the early evening, near the woods where her scuff marks had been found. Margaret's expression was tense. In the background, partially obscured by trees, a shadowy figure lingered, too far to identify, yet deliberate, too close to be a stranger passing by. The next image was more disturbing. Taken only minutes later, it showed Margaret's hand reaching towards something or someone. The figure, clearer this time, was unmistakably male. He held a small object in his hand, a key, a weapon, or perhaps a clue that would go unnoticed for decades. Alex realized, in that instant, that the evidence police had ignored for 30 years wasn't just minor. It was the key to solving the case. Reopened, armed with the newly developed photographs and deciphered note, Alex approached the current police chief. This time, the cold case team took him seriously. They began re-interviewing witnesses, reviewing old statements, and examining every location referenced in Margaret's note. Slowly, a picture emerged, a trusted family friend, someone who had volunteered at her school, who had never been questioned aggressively. The note, now understood as Margaret's own encoded warning, indicated she had suspected him of wrongdoing. She had hidden the message under her couch, knowing that if anything happened to her, someone might one day find it. The photographs corroborated her fears. The man in the images matched the descriptions given by neighbors on the night of her disappearance, and crucially, locations in the woods corresponded to where Alex and officers later found remnants of her belongings, scarf fragments, a bracelet, even a hidden journal. The truth emerges. The investigation revealed a shocking truth. Margaret had been kidnapped by someone she trusted, someone with knowledge of the town's routines and private spaces. She had attempted to leave warnings behind in ways she hoped the authorities would notice if anything happened to her. But because police at the time ignored the subtle evidence, the note and the camera, the case went cold. She had left breadcrumbs, invisible to those who didn't know how to see them. 31 years later, Alex Mercer, and the reopened investigation finally brought clarity. Forensic analysis matched the fragments found in the woods to Margaret's belongings. The suspect, now elderly and long retired, was arrested based on accumulated evidence. Confession came swiftly once confronted with irrefutable proof. Margaret's story, once a tragedy suspended in time, was finally resolved. She had survived initial captivity but died shortly after escaping. Her remains had been hidden in a remote area far from the towns. Scrutiny and the overlooked evidence had been the only path to her story. Even after the suspect was arrested, another layer of mystery emerged. Hidden within the developed Polaroid photographs, Alex discovered a faint, nearly invisible mark on the corner of one frame, an address, written in tiny, hurried handwriting that no one had noticed before. It pointed to a storage shed on the outskirts of town, a place long abandoned and forgotten. When investigators examined it, they found items Margaret had hidden herself, a second diary, more coded notes, and personal effects she had deliberately stashed in case anyone searched for her in the future. This discovery revealed a crucial truth. Margaret had anticipated danger. She had tried to leave clues to protect herself, to warn others, and to preserve evidence of her suspicions. Her foresight and her courage meant that justice, though delayed for decades, was finally possible. It also reminded the town that victims are sometimes the first to cry out for help, and it is only when we pay attention to the smallest signals that we can truly honor their struggle. The lesson of cold cases. The Hayes case became a landmark study for cold cases nationwide. It proved that small details, notes, photographs, items dismissed as unimportant can hold the keys to solving crimes decades later. It reminded law enforcement, journalists, and ordinary citizens alike that evidence ignored is justice delayed, often for generations. For the town, it was both relief and heartbreak. The mystery that haunted families, neighbors, and friends for over 30 years was finally solved. But the guilt lingered. Could authorities have acted sooner? Could Margaret have been saved if the evidence hadn't been dismissed? Married couples, children, and school friends all reflected on the human cost of oversight, realizing that sometimes the most innocent-seeming details conceal the darkest truths. Some evidence refuses to die. It waits patiently, sometimes for decades, knowing the truth has a way of finding someone brave enough to listen. Cold cases are not cold forever. Forgotten notes, unseen photographs, and subtle warnings can eventually shine light on horrors the world tried to ignore. The story of Margaret Hayes proves that the smallest evidence ignored for over 30 years can finally bring justice. It reminds us that every detail matters, every voice counts, and some truths, no matter how deeply buried, are destined to emerge. This has been Same Sky, bringing you stories of crimes, mysteries, and hidden evidence that refuse to stay in the shadows.